Welcome to the Asylum. And now, your hosts, Rick Fleeger and Rick Briggs.
That's right. Welcome into the Asylum Fantasy Sports Show. Now a proud member of the Full-Time Fantasy Podcast Network. Check out this and countless other great fantasy sports podcasts at fulltimefantasy.com and at Fulltime Fantasy on Twitter. And as always, you can follow your boys here at the Asylum at asylumfantasysports.com, at Asylum Football on the tweeters, and of course to join the conversation, asylumfootball@gmail.com. Draft season is lording over us now, Rick. It's not upon us. It is here and smacking you in your face right now. Head on over to fulltimefantasy.com to participate in the free Best Ball World Championships, a $35 starter league. Heck, do the $299 online championship with a $50,000 grand prize, or even get your butt in an airplane and head on out to the 8th Annual World Championships in Las Vegas. Take what you learn here and on the Full-Time Network and turn it into straight cash, homie, as your boy Randy Moss would tell you.
You got that right. We are Fleeger and Briggs. This is the Asylum Sports Show here on the Full-Time Fantasy Network. And it's right on top of us right now, Rick. We're right in the middle of it. Things are really picking up as far as the questions and everything. Get them into asylumfootball@gmail.com or put us on the Twitter at asylumfootball. And we got a lot of things to talk about, just newsworthy. We got some predictions to make. I got a little funny story, and
I'll be the judge of that. How funny it actually
well, it probably wouldn't be to you because you'd probably do it. So
that's a good tease right there. I like that. So, a couple of house cleaning things. We're going to do the, preview the entire NFC. Get that bookie on the phone. We'll tell you who's going to the Super Bowl in the NFC. We'll do the AFC next week. And I believe the week after that, Rick, we will be making predictions for Week 1. And then a little show announcement, I do believe, starting after Week 1, heading into Week 2. We're going to double your fun. We're going to double your pleasure as the Asylum goes to 2 days a week, Wednesday, and then sometime we haven't landed on
Friday
a day
or Saturday,
Friday
probably,
or Saturday, heading into the weekend. Tuesday will be your Wednesday will be your recap and your headlines and all the nonsense you expect from the Asylum, with a quick hitter, predictions, start sits, game picks for your bookie, everything you need. So look for that following Week 1. I don't know what the dates are, but whatever that is, that weekend following Week 1.
That's right, and you can keep up with your boys on SI.com, which is powered by Full-Time Fantasy. We've got some 10, 12, and 14 team mock drafts up there with a lot of the industry experts, including yours truly.
Right.
And, check it out. And big news coming up as far as the fantasy bull market. We'll have more information on it next week. So, check that out, SI.com.
Exciting time to be an Asylumite. If you've stuck with us through all the nonsense over the years, I think we're starting to turn into a little something here, some at least affiliated loosely with some big names. And so you want to be part of that as an Asylumite. I know I do.
Exactly.
All right, well, let's get into some of it, Rick. I think the first two stories in whatever order you choose have to be Ezekiel Elliott and Antonio Brown. Zeke, now I'm scared. I've spent weeks now leading off every show saying I'm not scared. Jerry Jones gets a little chesty, says Zeke who? Elliott didn't see the humor in it. Is this thing going to go into the start of the season, Rick?
Oh, yeah. Sure it will. Jerry, he's earned the right to make jokes.
Right.
You heard that. He's earned the right. So neither one of them's going to back down, and it's probably going to get nasty before it gets any better, quite frankly. I mean, look, I was really afraid of the Melvin Gordon situation, and I still am, but Ezekiel Elliott is getting to that point as well. Antonio Brown's a clown, and the whole atmosphere is a circus.
Right.
But I think he's going to be there, and he'll be as fine as he can be in Oakland. I'm guessing, until things start going south, and then he can't see the football because of the helmet, and maybe he'll quit. We don't know. But at least right now, I think he's going to be okay to start your fantasy year, but you'll have to monitor him hourly.
What I don't get with him, Rick, and I never look, and I know the stars have different rules, but I wasn't aware or have never come across anybody and any training camp who just comes and goes, and it's no big deal. You know, it's
right.
all right, well, I'm pissed off today, so I'm going to roll out for a couple days.
Okay, no problem.
And then he comes back, and I don't know if you watched Hard Knocks last night. It was like, the Queen coming down.
Yeah.
They were all so excited to see him. And then he rolls out again, and, Mayock did get mad there, and I think that's what spurred Antonio to come out. You're either all in or you're all out.
Right.
It's got to make a call now. And he shows back up, but they even said, in the first practice, I believe it was yesterday, maybe it was this morning, it's all starting to run together. He come out, did some of the, stretching and things like that, and then when his teammates put on their helmets, went out to do drills, he went to the weight room.
Yeah.
So it's just, you talk, this can't be good, right?
No,
there has to be a balance between when a guy with that big of an ego and that's talented, you make some concessions, right? You put up with some stuff. I'm good with that. I can live with that. It happens. But they're just letting this man do anything he wants. And everything that's happening to this point is purely driven by his ego, and you're just piling on it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's good to see Mike Mayock come out as – because Gruden has said nothing. So, I mean, you basically have the good cop, bad cop situation. And Mayock's taking the bad cop role while Gruden tries to keep everything warm and fuzzy in the locker room. But he has to be. You're either in or you're not. And I agree with him. I think somebody needs to try to pull some sort of reins on. I mean, look, you can only rein him in so far or he'll just throw his hands up and walk off. But that's the chance you're going to have to take, and you'll save a lot of money if he does.
Right.
So, I mean, it's look, their season is precarious as it is.
Right.
And without Antonio Brown, they're in bad trouble. However, to your point, you can't just let a guy come and go.
No,
because
that's
what that does is it creates animosity and dysfunction, and other people start doing it, and the morale just goes in the tank.
So we've talked about this a couple of times. Let's put the definitive stamp on it now that he's in camp for now. He'll leave and come back, but he's going to be there for week 1, irregardless of this helmet issue. Seems like the feet are fine. They're probably not great, but they're fine. He's getting around fine. I know it's stupid to say, are you avoiding Antonio Brown? Because it's, yes, but if he's around in the 7th round, I'm not avoiding him anymore. At his ADP right now, of 9, our wide receiver 9, and this is just in the last week. I ran these pretty short in the last week. Are you avoiding him in that regard at where his normal value would be? Or is this a guy you're willing to take the risk on? Or is this a guy, unless it becomes an obscene value, you know what I mean, you're going to go after him?
I think it's going to have to be at least a very good value. I mean, we can play the game with the ADP thing, but, I mean, if he's up there, I mean, you're talking first round, second round on these receivers with his value. Well, he's going against people. I'm going to assume he's close to, and I don't have it right in front of me, he's close to what? Probably a Mike Evans. Name some guys. You said you had it pulled up there.
So, right now he's sitting at wide receiver 9, yes. So behind him in order, Stephon Diggs. Thielen. Keenan Allen. T.Y.
Hilton, because I think Luck's coming around.
Mari Cooper.
He's dealing with plantar fasciitis, so that's kind of a wash there. But
then you get into your Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods, Julian Edelman.
Yeah,
I think that's the tier
Antonio
Brown's on for me, where I'm willing to take the risk when you get down to. So, there are guys I move him up, and it's going to be less about the ADP for me as where it is in the draft. Right? I'm not going to spend a third-round pick on this guy. I'm not going to do it. Probably in the 4th round where I've got a little bit of a core built that I feel good about, and then that's where I'm willing to start taking risks. And I think that's the point. I put him in the risk category. And when you talk about, there's so many guys that like to talk about risk reward. Has there ever been a greater risk reward candidate than Antonio Brown? If by some miracle he gets right with the helmet, he gets right with the league, he gets right with himself and in his own head, this is a guy who probably should be the wide receiver one in fantasy football. DeAndre Hopkins, Adams, some of these guys might have something, but he's going to be there.
Yeah, exactly. He's in the conversation.
He could also walk away, just start, because even when he's mad, and that's what I wonder where the risk is. Even when he's mad, he's performed, right? The only problem he had in Pittsburgh last year is when he quit showing up. Even though he was mad, he was getting his. So, you got to factor that risk reward, but it's not going to be in the first 3 rounds. It's a 4th round value for me. He's probably not going to get there, especially somebody at the end of the 3rd. This guy should be a bottom of the 1st, early 2nd round pick. So it's not a huge drop, but just risk reward. Let's do it with Ezekiel Elliott now. All right. We don't know anymore. You were drafting the caveman draft here in the studio in 2 mere days, and batting down the hatches and hide the valuables before these criminals come in. This is a guy who was going to be a top 3, top 4 pick. Where are you taking that risk? Because it is a risk right now.
I'll be honest with you. As it stands right now, like if our draft was tonight, I'm not touching this guy.
Period.
No, I mean, unless obviously it's way down. But yeah, no, in any reasonable sense, first 2-3 rounds, I can't take him. I mean, because when you start shooting, look, we had one of the criminals in our league last year took that shot in the 1st round with Le'Veon Bell. Right. You saw where that got him. I mean, that's suicide. I mean, you waste a 1st, 2nd, or 3rd round. And you get absolutely nothing. I mean, you're basically. That's fantasy suicide right there. There's just not a lot that you can make up with that.
Yeah. I'm thinking with him, I'm still convinced he shows up. I'm convinced he misses games at the beginning of the year, whether a contract gets done, whether it's that situation. What was it? 30 years ago now with Emmitt Smith all over again, where they get off to a bad start. As you hear Rick open a cool beverage and now spills everywhere, we have got to get the video going. His alcoholism's so rampant, he's popping bottles in the studio right now. Should I wait? You all right?
Nope, I'm okay. I just had a little emergency there. We just kind of got a little out of control there.
This is why we can't have nice things. Brand new computer, brand new board, brand new wiring.
I held it over the floor.
15 minutes into the 2nd episode, Rick Briggs is blowing alcohol all through the studio.
I held it over the floor.
Oh, good. Well, there's no wires on the floor, so that's good.
No, not over here, so don't worry about it. You'll be all right.
What a yutz. Anyhow, Ezekiel Elliott, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, I tell you what, Rick, I'm...
End of the 3rd, beginning of the 4th.
Yeah.
Maybe. I would be tempted.
What about Gordon? What? You've heard nothing.
He is double-digit rounds for me for 2 reasons. Number one, he said... The last thing he said was, I'm here. I'm just waiting for a call, which tells me I'm going to choose to believe it, that the Chargers said, all right, don't come back. The Chargers can function, and the Chargers will be good with or without Melvin Gordon. I don't think there's much of a drop-off with Jackson and Eckler versus Gordon, Eckler, and Jackson. Now, Melvin Gordon, we've talked about this ad nauseum.
Right.
He doesn't have the clout right now that an Ezekiel Elliott does. So it seems to me the Chargers have said, all right, we're here. If you want to get paid, we'd love to have you. We're a potential Super Bowl team, but if you don't show up. So this guy is...
We've gone 60 years without a Super Bowl. So.
I mean, as we sit, if nothing changes between now and the caveman draft on Friday, this is a round 10. I've got everything I want, and that's just a little lottery ticket later on in the draft. That's where, and that's the difference, I think, in the value if you look at it. I would be tempted if I had like the 1st overall pick at that 2-3 turn to still grab Elliott. it's risky, but I might do it. I'm a little more risk averse than you are,
right?
Or not risk. You're more risk averse than I am.
Exactly.
If I could speak the English language. Melvin Gordon, like I said, if I'm sitting there in the 10th and it's like, all right, do I want the tight end 17? Or I'll take Melvin Gordon. I had a little lottery ticket. Maybe he shows up in week 8 like Le'Veon Bell threatened to all of last year, and that would be great. So. Yeah, he's a no touch for me until we get to the double. All right, Rick, the other big news of the week, as these things always happen pretty much right after we record, Josh Gordon reinstated by the NFL. Looks like he's expected to be ready to go week 1. People are losing their minds. Huge deal, big deal, little deal, deal.
I think this could be – okay, let's put it this way. This is a potentially huge deal.
Right.
Right now, it's a big deal. I mean, because he looks good, looks like he's in great shape, and we know what he can do in the football field. And his stock is rising in the ADPs, and actually in my mind too. I mean, I'm not avoiding this guy. I think even he's smart enough to realize, okay, this is it. This is the last vestige of hope that I have for a real NFL career. And let's face it, he's on a team that probably gives him a top 3 of any team in the league chance at a championship. Now, you got to think even a guy like Gordon wants to win a Super Bowl, wants the notoriety, wants the fame. And it's a big deal. I'm keeping an eye on him, and he's on the radar, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I think, here we go with the risk-reward again, right? When he plays, he's going to be great. Now, I think some people take it too far, right? You're going to be a wide receiver 1. Looking back on it, when he has played in his entire career before last year's suspension, when he plays a game, he averages 83 yards a game. Averages.
Right.
Pretty darn good, right? Been right about wide receiver 23 before he walked away or got suspended or whatever happened last year. So that's where I see him is, the potential to be a wide receiver 2. I think that's kind of the ceiling for him, just in the way that offense worked. Edelman's still there, White's still there. Now there's 14 new running backs who are tearing up camps. So we're back to, all my Sony Michel love. I wonder if I'm overdoing that one a little bit. Probably not, but we can get into that later. So I think, fits in nicely, low-end wide receiver 2, high-end 3. I'm not drafting that. And if his ADP, kind of stays where it's at, right now I'm trying to find real quick. I think he's right around in the 40s, wide receiver 40, going all the way back. That's pretty good value, and that's where I'm drafting him. I'm not counting on him because, look, your point's well taken. Even he's got to realize this is his last chance. He had to think that last time, and he had to think that the time before. I'd be fascinated if the story ever comes out what this really is, right? That he keeps getting this mercy from this league and this commissioner who has just crushed, like his teammate Tom Brady, who sat out 4 games over knowledge of deflated footballs, and yet Josh Gordon keeps getting chance after chance. There's a very compelling something
that's
about this backstory
point
that we don't know.
That's a very good point, and we've got Golden Tate sitting out 4 games with whatever that was, something to do with fertility or whatever. I don't know really how much of an edge he has over his competitors using that, but he's out 4 games. Yeah. I think it was ridiculous.
And meanwhile, Tyreek Hill and Josh Gordon are going to start on week 1.
Right.
Now, the Tyreek Hill, unpopularly, I kind of agree with it, but boy, you look at it from that perspective, and it's kind of yucky.
And I'm with you on Josh Gordon, don't get me wrong, but when I say potential, huge deal. If he plays, stays healthy, and keeps his head right, what him and Tom Brady could do over 16 games, I think could make your head spin.
Oh, absolutely.
And he could very well just be the turning point that we'll see New England in a Super Bowl again. So, yeah, I mean, it's a potential big deal, a huge deal. Right now, yeah, I'm like you, wide receiver 2. I mean, that's what I'm thinking he might be.
I don't think I'd want him as my 2. I think that's his ceiling, quite frankly. I'd like to get him as my 4. I don't think I'm going to get him, that low with the frenzy. I mean, I see him when you get down, as I look at the ADP, when I get around, A.J. Green with the injury, Christian Kirk, Robbie Anderson, Samuel Fuller, kind of those high upside guys, I think that's the tier he leads for me. And I think that's lower for other people. So I've got him under like Calvin Ridley, Alshon Jeffrey, Allen Robinson, Jarvis Landry. Guys that I think are steady if unspectacular. Some I may think are better than others on that list. But I'd rather have one of those guys. I'm treating Josh Gordon also as a risk and looking for a value. Now, probably none of these 3 we've talked about in the risk-reward I'm going to get at the value I want for them.
Right.
But that's where I'm at with these cats. So you talked about Golden Tate. We'll leave that there. Le'Veon Bell, Rick's been announced he is not going to play in the preseason. 99 out of 100 times I agree with that decision with a star player. But I wonder with Le'Veon Bell, it has been a long time since he played professional football. How much additional risk concern do you have that he comes out and pulls a hammy, those soft tissue injuries we spend so much time talking about here, or rust or whatever, where we value him? I've got him on a ton of teams already because he does feel like the best running back value in that first round. This makes me I'd like to see him play a little bit of near real football, just a little bit.
Yeah, you'd like to see a little bit of something. It's been so long that he's been laid off. But the Jets are erring on the side of caution. They are willing to put up with the slow start. Like he did that 1 year with Pittsburgh. He was suspended or whatever and wasn't in camp. And, he had a slow start, but he ended up with a very good year. I think the Jets are willing to take that for a couple of games. I'm with you. I like to see him play. I mean, who wouldn't? Everybody's looking to see what he has and what kind of shape he's in, the speed, the cuts, and so forth. Everything I've heard, everybody's throwing up the praises, but that's what you get out of a camp.
Well, and he should look like the best player in camp.
Sure.
I have grave concerns over hamstring, groin, calf, something. You see it so often when a guy just holds out. This guy's been holding out since 2017, for God's sake, it feels like. So it makes me nervous. I don't think it affects my draft value on him. It's just that one, what should be a bang, Le'Veon Bell put the sticker on the board, if anybody still does that other than us here at the Caveman League. But now I'm kind of, instead of that, it's kind of like, here we go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Drafting them because I got to, not because I want to. So it's interesting. It makes me nervous. It scares me.
And I just came across something that was posted today at 3:30 from Ian Rappaport that Melvin Gordon's expected to miss regular season time. I mean, there's just nothing happening, and he's going to be missing games. He is just not touchable to me.
I don't see where he has any leverage either. I really don't think. Maybe I value those other Chargers running backs more than the Chargers do, but the way they're reacting, from what it sounds like, they're not even contacting him. All right.
No, it says he's seeking a contract that is in the range of the top 3 contracts at that position, which would include a salary of at least $13 million per season and $20 million in guarantees. He's not going to get it.
No. So it's either he's going to have to give or he's going to sit out all year. The Chargers aren't going to do it. I don't blame them.
No, I don't either. And the only way that Los Angeles is going to capitulate is if something would happen extremely early on to Eckler or something of that nature.
Maybe that gives him that little bit of leverage. All right, that's all I got for headlines. Real quick, we don't want to spend a lot of time on this. I want to get to the NFC preview, and that's probably going to take some time. But we did some overreactions out of preseason week 1. So I thought I'd do the same thing with week 2. And essentially, it came down to the same players again. Daniel Jones, Rick, he's going to lap Peyton Manning in his career. That's what I've decided after 2 preseason games. This is just me rooting so hard for this guy. He looks like a pro quarterback to me. I don't think he should start the year out. I think he should get a little I think we're going to see him this year at some point, but I think Eli gets the start, and this guy what'd you make of Baker Mayfield's comment? Is that anything to you whatsoever?
Not at all, and they've already talked, and it's no big deal. It's just chatter. You let it go.
You know what irritates me about that in these situations in general is the media, the real media, not like us, like the real media.
We're fair and balanced.
And even fans, we gripe and complain. All these players say nothing. They just blah, 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 off on to Cincinnati. And then when you ask them a direct question and they give you a direct answer, we clutch our pearls and, mercy me, how could you say something like that? What do you want?
And the same bozos that are saying, how dare he insult our quarterback, are the same schleps that are just saying, you didn't deserve to be drafted. You're a bum. We love Eli. We should have drafted somebody else.
Yeah, I guess that's, we can make fun of everybody in the trailer park, but you better not.
Yeah, don't you come in here, City Slicker.
One of those. Yeah. And look, how about this? This shouldn't be stunning to you. Guess what? Baker Mayfield is a cocky douche. But you know what? Great quarterbacks, great athletes tend to be cocky douches. So I have no issue with this. I don't think this affects anything in his everyday life.
No, exactly. I'll tell you one thing, and I don't think this is not an overreaction or anything, but one thing that's concerning to me, and I was tweeting with somebody about it, it's amazing to me that everyone is totally stunned that Jimmy Garropolo is having a poor preseason.
Right.
They're just stunned. What's going on? The guy missed the entire year last year. He's basically, a second-year guy? If you think about it.
He had a handful, a half a dozen good games.
Yeah.
And that was that.
Right. He's a young guy. He's got hardly any experience, and all of a sudden, it's like, what's wrong with him? Blah, blah, blah. Look, he's learning the ropes. He's probably going to be a very good quarterback. But it takes some time. There's not that many quarterbacks run in and are Johnny Unitas all over again.
And if I had one actual real concern, and I think, I think this could fall in the overreaction type of category in watching that game and watching him play. A lot of it was just rust. He hasn't played and started a lot of NFL games. He had that meteoric rise and then the brutal injury and sitting out a year and rehabbing it and everything that went with that. So you expect a level of rust. If I was going to overreact to anything, if anything made me nervous, is he did look, I want to say, uncomfortable back there. I don't know, not sure of the knee yet, afraid of injury, afraid of taking a hit. That concerns me. That, in my mind, takes a little longer to get over than just the rust. A pro quarterback will shake that rust off right quick.
Right.
A couple of games, couple of hits. He looked a little unsure of himself back there. He looked a little uncomfortable. Now, maybe it is one preseason game, 2 preseason games to see, all right, the knee is all right. I can trust that. My rehab's good, and maybe that goes away. But I think there may be more of something between the ears with that, with Jimmy G right now than there is even necessarily physically. That I would be a little bit concerned with.
Right.
And look, Rick, your 85-catch prediction for James Washington right here on the Asylum Fantasy Sports Show last week, maybe an undersell. I am starting to get myself whipped into Now, we may get to the regular season and, all right, here's old pro Dante Moncrief, and we're going to see this stuff we heard about all of camp before they started playing games. Perhaps you see that step up. But, boy, he looks comfortable. He
does. He has to have the rapport with Ben Roethlisberger, though.
That's the big thing. We haven't seen him play with Ben Roethlisberger.
Exactly.
We see him playing with his college quarterback, but it wasn't great last preseason. He just looks comfortable. He's high pointing the ball. He's all where he's supposed to be. All the criticisms against him last year,
right?
He seems to have figured out. And there's a lot of catches available. Plus, Juju's going to see a lot of double coverage.
I'm telling you, I'm not backing down from that prediction at all. I think it's certainly in the realm of possibilities. Very realistic.
All right, everybody. Get your bookies on the phone. It is time we predict the entire NFC, beginning to end, division by division, right out to who will be representing the National Football Conference in the Super Bowl in Miami this year. Where do you want to start? Let's start at the top, Rick. NFC North. Oh, I caught you right in the middle of a sip. That's terrible.
That's okay.
Terrible
I mean,
there.
it's fine. If you want to
if
start
you would
in the
put
north,
that liquor down for 4 minutes. You carry around a brown jug with 3 X's on it. I've never seen such a thing.
Yeah, but see, I don't do that thing that's like hooked over the arm. It's like really weird you see in the old movies. I don't know why they do that. You just grab it with 2 hands and chug it. You got better control.
Well, they're trying to sip it. They're trying to be a little more classy.
So you want to go north first. Okay,
let's
let
go
me scroll
NFC
down
north.
here. I did the east first. Okay, here we go. I believe, quite frankly, Rick, this is the toughest division of football.
Based on records, that's what I have as well.
Yeah, I mean, I truly believe it, and I think this division winner is going to be the Chicago Bears. I think they have a great defense. They have a young offense that's coming together and really finding their identity. And quite frankly, if not in such a tough division, I'd probably have them around 13-3. As such, I have them at 11-5 and taking the division.
All right, well, I have the Bears 1 game off of yours. I have them at 10-6.
All right.
But that's not good enough to win this division for me. Spoiler alert.
Wow.
But look, Chicago, this is always about one thing, right? One thing and one thing only. Does Mitchell Trubisky take that next step? We know what the defense is. They're going to be great. It's going to be a nightmare going into Soldier Field when the wind's howling 900 miles an hour and trying to move the ball against that Bears defense. They bring in Singletary. You still got Cohen. The running game's going to be great. A lot of fascinating options, pass-catching options. It begins, ends, and the only conversation is Trubisky and how far can he take this team. And I think in this division and with that schedule they play, this is going to be tough for him to take that next huge step. I think this just feels like a 10-6, maybe an 11-5 team. I have him at 10-6, who I presume you have in second place, Rick. Well, maybe I shouldn't presume this. Who I have winning this division at a whopping 12-4 is the Minnesota Vikings, Rick. This, again, it's always about the quarterback. This is about Kirk Cousins. Can he start to win those games against good teams, against playoff teams? The weapons on offense are stupid. A presumably healthy Dalvin Cook now. Thielen, Diggs, the guys at the tight end position, Rudolph. That offense is scary. It is potent. And if Kirk Cousins plays to potential, along with what's still a really good defense, the Minnesota Vikings, Rick, I got them at 12-4 and winning this division.
I agree with everything you said, especially about Kirk Cousins if he plays to his potential. And I love the guy. Don't get me wrong. I'm hoping that I can flip-flop these teams, and you're correct. And for one time, I'm actually rooting for you because I would love to see him succeed, and I would love to see Minnesota take it. They were a bit of a disappointment given the expectations last year. It was kind of a letdown after that big year the year before. Cousins is in his second seasons with him, and all the offensive pieces are there. They even brought Kyle Rudolph back. People thought he was going to be left go in the offseason, but he wasn't. Defense is still very good. I think they have a great chance to win this division. I'm just not, I guess, convinced as you are that Cousins is going to take that step. If it gets down to 2 minutes to go against Aaron Rodgers, I'm still going to throw the money on Rodgers in a tight game. It's just one of those things. It's kind of like Cousins. Please don't turn into the Tony Romo of the 2000 teens. Where you throw up good numbers and you just don't win the big games. So you're right. You presume correctly. I do have him second. I have him at 10-6, and I mean, I think if he ups his play. 2-game difference, not a problem, really.
Yeah, all right. Not hard to predict then who we both have in third place with the Green Bay Packers. I got them coming in at 9-7, 3-3 in the division. Yeah, I got them at 9-7, 3-3 in division. Here's the problem: that defense isn't very good. You got Aaron Rodgers. That's pretty good, right? We can agree on that.
Still one of the best.
You got Devontae Adams.
Stud.
That's pretty good.
There you go.
I ran out of good things to say about Green Bay.
Yeah.
Look, I like the running backs in terms of – I don't like them in terms of fantasy football. I think you're going to see some back and forth there a little bit. And it's just not consistent. It's really not what they do. The offensive line isn't great. I think Aaron Rodgers gets himself knocked around. I have them winning 9 games solely on the strength of Aaron Rodgers being Aaron Rodgers and having the ability to will a team to 8 or 9 wins a year. I just think, from a fantasy standpoint and from a real on-the-field football standpoint, after Rodgers, after Adams, there isn't much left to talk about.
No, exactly. I have Green Bay at 8-8, and this is verbatim what I wrote. And like we said, we don't talk before the shows. Rodgers is still considered one of the best. Davante Adams is a stud wide receiver. The questions start after that. Will the defense pick it up in 2019? I really don't think so, because I don't think they're that good.
Right.
Can Aaron Jones be the back that they need to take pressure off of Rodgers? I don't know, but they haven't had one for years. Can they keep the O-line piece together? There we go again. I mean, it's not very good as it is, and they need to piece it together for 16 games. There's just lots of questions that's going to keep the Packers hanging around, but eventually they're just going to fall short.
Yeah, and that's what it's – and they'll probably get off to a hot start, right? Aaron Rodgers healthy and in good weather. Yeah, Adams will be putting up huge numbers. God, my mind just went blank. Aaron Jones will be running the ball well with that offensive line being what it is. Guys are going to get beat up. Guys are going to get nicked up. And that defense isn't good enough to keep up with, certainly what they have in the division, at quarterback with Stafford, with Cousins, and with who'd I forget there?
Trubisky.
Mitch Trubisky. I think it's going to be tough. They're going to face great defenses where basically, if you're going to have to be a two-horse team, those are two pretty good horses to have in Rodgers and Adams. But just looking at the talent in this division, it's tough. And I think it's off to a good start and kind of fade as the year goes on. And let's not forget, there's been already, before they even took the field, some consternation between the quarterback and your boy LeFleur.
Yes.
There's already some animosity there. Aaron Rodgers has had a bit of a chip on his shoulder the last couple years. I don't think it's no bueno, Rick. No bueno at all.
I'm with you. And then fourth place comes to the Detroit Lions. Look, the Lions are expecting a lot of good things from the offense. And this team won't be horrible, but they're just in the wrong division when it gets right down to it. The Lions have not had a top-notch running back since Sanders. And Kerryon Johnson, he's expected to be huge, but I think the expectations for him, fantasy and in regular football, just a little. I just don't think they're going to get that out of him. That's not the Lions. Matt Stafford insists his back is fine. He's been talking about that this preseason. But if it's fine, why are you talking about it? I mean, that was last year, right? And he's still talking about the back's fine. Well, okay. But I just see too many weaknesses right now in Detroit, like I said, in the best division of football. And I got them at 7-9. I don't think they're going to be horrible, but I don't know if they can climb out of the cellar.
Yeah, I brought them in at 4-12. I'm not even as big of a believer as you are for what that's worth. Matt Stafford, this is the year, Rick. This pains me to say. For anybody who's listened to this show for any length of time, I have lived and breathed that 5,000-yard season. Feels like 242 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
And predicted it's going to happen again, and waited and waited and waited for my quarterback and said, I'm going to grab Matt Stafford in the double-digit rounds, and you all clowns watch. I'm going to win the championship, and it hasn't worked out. He's going to make mistakes.
But this is the year he finally puts it together. It isn't. He sucks.
Yeah, it's pretty much as simple as that. Look, Kerryon Johnson's an interesting case for me. I think, based on opportunity, you get Theo Riddick out of town, right? I think that helps him. It can't hurt him. You bring C.J. Anderson in. Nice little finish to the last season, but come on. Kerryon Johnson's going to have every opportunity. His ability to catch the football is what's going to make or break this. His ADP right now on full-time fantasy is as running back 12. I think that's pretty fair. Now, Leonard Fournette, he's just ahead of. I like him over Fournette. I don't like him over Freeman. I don't think I like him over Damian Williams, but he's pretty close. But I'll tell you what, here's Chris.
But see, that's the thing. If for my money, if I'm going after a running back one, just the idea that Johnson is a little bit ahead of Freeman, who's on the Atlanta Falcons.
Right.
And we know what Devontae Freeman can do when healthy. I'm willing to risk my money to roll the dice more than Devontae Freeman than on the Detroit Lions.
Right. No, exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And so I just don't think that team's going to be very good. And so often we've waited for how many guys? That guy in Detroit, the high-powered offense, that he's going to come out and he's going to be that breakout, top 10 type of running back star. It doesn't happen often there in Detroit. It's not who they are. It begins and ends with Stafford. He makes brutal errors when it matters most. When Detroit plays and you think it's going to be a shootout, they score 6. It's just this team, and I think that affects Kerryon Johnson less so much than the ability of Kerryon Johnson. All right, where do you want to go now, Rick?
You make the decision.
All right, well, we started in the north. Let's go to the south, the dirty south. I hate predicting this one because it's always whoever finished last finishes first the next year, and I never have the guts to pick it. So I'll let you start this show, Rick. Who do you have winning the south?
This was a division where I was afraid to really give 3 of the teams a really good record or a bad record. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about the Saints, Falcons, and Panthers. I've got the Saints taking it in a tiebreaker at 10-6.
Oh, wow. So you have them at 10-6.
I do.
I have them winning it, but I have them at 12-4.
Wow.
I think they're a dominant team this year.
I hope they are. And I'm just – Mark Ingram's gone. There's a few little subtle changes that may not affect them. But I think Atlanta's going to be better. I think Carolina's a little better than what people are giving them credit for. But they have the offense and the defense to win it all. I'm fully convinced of that. And they should have made it to the Super Bowl last year. Most of the team's still intact. They are a year older. And I think this is Breeze's best chance for another title. I'm with you. I just think it's going to be a pretty close division. I could have said 11-5 and felt good about it, but I have Atlanta at 10-6 as well.
Right.
And so that's where I'm at. I got New Orleans taking it. And I mean, if you twist my arm, I'll say 11-5 just to make it that it's not a tie. But
it doesn't matter. I actually found a simulator, Rick. I, like a fool, in August predicted every game of the season to come up with these records. So they should even jive with each other at the end if you did the math. So, look, with New Orleans, this is about we know what Alvin Kamara is going to be, right? Obviously, Latavius Murray.
Case in point, didn't mean to interrupt you, but I saw just a little article today, and I was at work, but I was at lunchtime. I was browsing around. I saw this predicting that Kamara is running back 2 numbers this year.
Based on what?
I don't know. I didn't have time to read the whole thing. I thought it was hokey, but it was on a big site and is a well-organized name. So that's as far as I'm leaving at that. You're not getting me to, in any way, shape, or form, believe he's a running back 2.
If I have any concern with Alvin Kamara, it is this. Can Latavius Murray be Mark Ingram? As great as Kamara's numbers were in the first 4 weeks last year when good Lord, what is wrong with me today?
Mark Ingram?
When Mark Ingram was suspended. I was terrified of his usage. You were happy to see Ingram come back as a Kamara owner.
Right.
You worry about his usage. How much of that work can Latavius Murray take and keep Kamara in that role where he's not overworked to where he's on the field 3 downs over and over and over again and taking a beating? If I have any concern there, look, we know who Michael Thomas is. A lot of people predicting the downfall of Drew Brees. I don't buy it. He's still Drew Brees. He's still got that offensive line. He's still got Michael Thomas. He's still got all the weapons around him. You look at we're forever trying to find who's that second reliable fantasy wide receiver in New Orleans. I still don't think there is one. I really don't. Traquan Smith is intriguing, I guess, but he's a late-round flyer for me. And, of course, nobody's going to mess with Ted Ginn or Kirkwood or any of these other guys named Mo at that point. But with that big 3, with the way they play defense, with the home field advantage in that dome, I don't know. It just feels like, the universe owes them one. After the way last season ended, that might be part of it, and we'll get to that when we get out into the playoffs. Spoiler alert for everyone there. But I think it's them. So then we agree the Atlanta Falcons, right? Yes. I got them at 10-6. coming in second place. This is a team, Devontae Freeman presumably back and healthy, Matt Ryan still doing Matt Ryan things. They decided in the second half of the season that, hey, when we get close to the end zone, we can still throw to this Jones guy, and he'll probably catch them and we'll score some points. Remember that saga, what was it, week 8 or 9 before he got into the end zone last year? The emergence of Ridley, exciting things with that offense. Their defense, I don't know if I'm sold, and I think that's the differentiator. I don't know if they can get in a shootout with New Orleans. I don't know if they can get in a shootout and win with that defense to the level of winning the division. I think this is a team perfectly capable of it, and that has the horses. I think it's a good, steady playoff team is what I think Atlanta
I do
is.
too, and I think that your concern at running back with New Orleans as a negative, a possible negative, is trumped a little bit by the return of a healthy Devontae Freeman, what he can do in that Atlanta backfield. Look, I'm said it a million times, and I'm convinced of it this year. I'm not believing in Tevin Coleman. He couldn't do what Devontae Freeman did when he's the featured back, and I think that makes a big difference. I think this is why it's going to be – it was so hard for me to really take a definitive winner out of that. I think Atlanta's going to be very good. I think they come up just a tad shy somehow in a tiebreaker, but they're definitely a playoff team in my book as we get farther into it. At third, I have Carolina. I have them at 9-7.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I mean, look, they look right now to be poised to challenge for the division on paper. Cam Newton's been fighting the injury bug, and he takes a pounding. And that's one big concern that I have. Greg Olson's back, but he's still concerned with foot issues over the last 2 seasons, and he's not getting any younger. McCaffrey's great. And for them to get 9-7, he has to stay healthy. I think the defense is fine, but when you're playing New Orleans and Atlanta twice in shootout games, I think a lot has to go right for Carolina to leap over the Saints and the Falcons. I think they're going to be a pretty decent team, but I think they're going to fall short of the playoffs.
Yeah, I have them in third place. I have them a bit lower at 6-10. I think here's what it comes down to. Here's the reasons to be excited, right? McCaffrey, you've got Cam Newton's security blanket back in your boy Greg Olson. I just have no faith in Greg Olson's ability to play 16 games. I don't have any faith in his ability to play 9 games at this point. Maybe this is recency bias, perhaps, but it just makes me very nervous. The defense is good, not great. They're just fine. But to your point, playing those two teams, I think McCaffrey lives up to all the expectations we have for him from a fantasy standpoint, and perhaps even exceeds them. I think where it falls is you still look. Tiger doesn't change its stripes. Is that the saying? I think
leopard doesn't change its spots. Tiger doesn't change.
Maybe that's it.
Stripes. Skunk doesn't smell like roses. I don't know.
Rick Briggs doesn't change his drinking habits. Anything like that. So you look at we talked about this a lot with the young wide receivers, right? In Curtis Samuel and DJ Moore. It's just Cam Newton ain't that dude, right? It's still, we talked about that. So I don't think you see the offense take that giant leap that they could take based on the talent. I think based on talent, Moore and Samuel are those guys. And with a healthy Olsen and with what McCaffrey can do both in the running game and the passing game, this has a potential to be as high-powered of an offense as what the teams we have ahead of them, New Orleans, but it's not what they do. And Cam Newton, you go out, things start to go wrong. We've talked a lot about this, right? And no question about Cam Newton's ability. But, boy, when things start going wrong, he starts taking more on his shoulders. He gets a little obstinate about things. You see it, with the media. How does that translate on the field? I just think, maybe in other divisions, this team is a team on paper you're talking about as a division favorite. I just don't think they stack up well with their division opponents. The schedule's not the easiest, and I think it's just one of those things with Cam Newton. If this thing gets rolling the wrong direction for a couple of games, it can get out from underneath them, and I think that's what happens here as they finish 6-10.
Very possible. And in the cellar, we have Tampa Bay. I just don't see any huge leaps for Tampa Bay this year. Yeah, I love Bruce Arians. I like Mike Evans. I'm even warming up to Godwin, but Winston has to take some huge leaps forward. The running game with Barber and or Jones, flip a coin, doesn't scare anybody. And the defense stinks, and they face New Orleans, Atlanta, and Carolina twice, not to mention the Rams, not to mention the Colts, not to mention the Seahawks. And that offense also faces a Jacksonville defense. I mean, there's just not a lot stacking up. I have Tampa at 4-12. And I'm not sure they even do that.
Yeah, I got them at 5-11. Look, this is all about – we're going to say this a lot. It's easy to say, I guess. But this really is all about Jameis Winston. They're not going to have much of a running game to speak of. We've debated all summer, and we'll debate heading into drafts, and we'll get these questions once the season starts, between Barber and Ronald Jones. I just don't think there's going to be much of a running game to speak of. We know who Mike Evans is. I wonder if Winston can be good enough to let Godwin be what I think he could be. This is a guy I owned all over the place last year. I was in love with it. I think he does take that next step up, and I think he lives up to his relatively lofty ADP at this point. But the real concern –
But is it going to be garbage time?
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. Jameis Winston, I just don't see him taking that step, becoming that guy. Look, he's going to be a great stat compiler. But in terms of winning football games, look, your boy Fitzmagic ain't there no more. Now you're talking about Blaine Gabbert, so there's no safety net this year.
Right.
Some have made the argument that's good for Jameis Winston. He doesn't have to look over his shoulder. The coaching staff doesn't have that carrot of, all right, Jameis is struggling here. We can bring Fitzpatrick in. I don't buy it. If he was ready, if he was that dude, it wouldn't matter who was sitting behind him. It would never be a concern.
Exactly.
This just really comes down to a pedestrian defense, some intriguing players at the wide receiver position, a bad running game, and a quarterback who I just don't trust. Now, from a fantasy perspective, James Winston's going to be riding some of my rosters.
Oh yeah,
I think
Mike
a lot
Evans
of garbage
is great.
time. I think they're in a lot of they're in a lot of lopsided affairs. A lot of trying to come back. And look, we know what Jameis Winston can do on the deep ball. It's on that intermediate stuff where you're going to move the ball, especially when you don't have a good running game, where he struggles. And I think that costs him a lot of football games. And I have them. It's cellar dwelling at 5-11. All right, let's go to the East, Rick. I kind of
wish we'd have got this one out of the way earlier. But,
I stunned myself with this one.
Well, then I'll let you start then.
Not with the order.
Okay.
But I had Philadelphia come in at 13-3. If Carson Wentz stays healthy, there is talent both sides of the football.
Sure.
All over this roster. Everywhere you look, it is there. Not a lot of competition in this division.
Especially if Zeke doesn't play.
Yeah, that's the big one. And, I want to get a caveat when we get down to Dallas.
Yep.
But really, Carson Wentz, this is a guy who's won a lot of football games. What I need to see him do for this prediction to be correct is play a game in December. He hasn't really done that very often. The running game's intriguing. Your boy Jordan Howard, I know you're all over him. Looking more like he's going to be a situational type of guy as Miles Sanders really getting – it's going to be a committee. Clement's still there. Jordan Howard's still there. I do worry a lot of people, Sanders creeping up that ADP board, people getting excited about it. I think he's going to get his. I think Jordan Howard still gets plenty. Jordan Howard has done it in this league and done it at a high level. And, not massive names at the wide receiver position. However, you look at Alshon Jeffrey, you bring Deshaun Jackson back. Aguilar's been solid. Just names, just solid. Top
let's not forget Zach Ertz.
Yeah, and Zach Ertz, again, one of the top 3 tight ends in the league.
Right.
A lot of people think Dallas Goedert, is a big part of that as well. It's just based on the competition and the level of talent on that team. 13-3 seems a little lofty after I got done with my simulator,
Well,
but they easily run away with this division.
Yeah, we talk about the caveat with Zeke not playing for Dallas, but let's face it, with Sudfeld out, I don't know how long. If Wentz goes down,
they're in big trouble.
They are in big trouble.
Nick Foles
They've got
ain't walking through that door.
No, he's not there to save the day any longer. But you're right. I mean, I have them at 12-4. They're the only team in the East really right now that doesn't seem to be in turmoil. They have a good defense. The offense is very solid. Wentz has to stay healthy, as we mentioned, because Nick Foles is gone. But other than that, look, they're playing Washington Redskins twice, the New York Giants twice, and if Elliott's not playing, a Zekeless Cowboys twice. So I have them at 12-4, taking the division, not a problem. I have Dallas at second with a caveat. I have them at 9-7 if Zeke's playing. If not, I don't know where the spiral takes them, but it's at least 2 games worse, I would say. A lot of people aren't saying that. Well, Frank Pollard can walk right in there. Look, it's possible because they have an excellent offensive line. So I'm staying with the 9-7. It's a stretch if he doesn't sign, but the defense is very good. Dak and Cooper, I think they're going to be a good combination. And like I said, with that offensive line, they can win division games. So they're in second place at 9-7.
Yeah, I have them at 7-9. Probably that 2-game bump of assuming Ezekiel Elliott misses some time. I don't believe he misses the entire season, but I think he misses a little time at the beginning of this year. And look, Tony Pollard's nice. He looked good in the last preseason game. I'm sorry.
I'm going to have to listen back to the
You called him Frank
Okay,
Pollard. Yeah,
I was going to say, I called him Frank. He used
Yeah.
to play for the Steelers.
Yeah.
I'm like, what am I doing? Okay, yeah.
I just let it ride.
I'm glad you did. But, yeah, Tony
I'm
Pollard.
glad you were self-aware, though. So he ain't Ezekiel Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott is special. He is special. And that offense is built, designed, and run through Ezekiel Elliott.
Right.
Without him, Dak Prescott struggles. You look, Amari Cooper, look.
It's like taking McCaffrey off Carolina.
Right, exactly.
Simple as that.
Pro athletes play through this plantar fasciitis. It's not the end of the world. It's not an Achilles. I don't like a big-time receiver going into a season before we even start with something that's going to nag him the entire season.
I know.
I don't like it. It makes me nervous. It gets a little weak behind him. A lot of people are excited about Michael Gallup. Randall Cobb's in town. I think there's just a bunch of other guys, a bunch of other dudes, after Amari Cooper. And we saw that, which is why in the middle of the season last year they gave up the first-round pick for Amari Cooper, and it turned their season around, right? So that tells you how important it is. I don't like him having that injury. I know Jason Witten is your man crush, but Jason Witten is about 4 months younger than you. Look, he'll have some value there. Look, just without Ezekiel Elliott, with the injury concerns with Amari Cooper, it's not going to be a very good football team. They're good enough defensively. That offensive line is good enough, to your point, to win some division games, to surprise some people at home. That, without Ezekiel Elliott, they're about a 500 team. They contend for this division if and when Ezekiel Elliott shows up. I don't believe Tony or Frank, his brother Pollard, can step in. They can bridge that gap to a degree, but no. Just without Ezekiel Elliott, there's nothing more to talk about, really. Although I've talked for 10 minutes, there's nothing more to talk about.
And I want to spend a lot of time on 3 and 4. I have New York in third place. I have them at 6-10 because when you have high hopes for the Giants, they're miserable. and when you write them off as a 2-14 team, they'll tend to do something a little bit better. Look, the Daniel Jones era to me has begun. I think the Giants will be better for it. Barkley's a stud. The Giant receivers, they're going to be replaced in the next couple of years. There's not a lot there, I don't think. And then they're going to have to work on defense. I have them at 6-10. Might be a little lofty, but I'm just being optimistic for the Giants. I have the Skins at 3-13. There's not much to talk about to me. The quarterback is a question mark. The running back, while it does have some upside, I think it's a question mark. The defense, not going to be able to rescue many games from them. And look, we have already talked about the receivers. there's just not much I like with the Redskins.
Yeah. I have them flipped. I got the Redskins at 5-11, the Giants at 4-12. Flip a coin, you lose either way, with these two teams. The Giants, I just think, you want to talk about a lack of weapons from anybody who's not named Saquon Barkley, with Golden Tate being out 4 games. Sterling Shepard's a guy, you tell you what, you don't talk about a lot on a fantasy show, but just by default, you may have a nice first
him
half.
And Ingram, exactly.
Might have, Evan Ingram, I think creeps into a top 5 tight end. I don't think I'm breaking any ground with that, but that is a guy I am targeting. But really beyond that, the depth chart's just pathetic. And look, Washington defensively, look, what was the formula that almost had them in the playoffs last year, at least very early on for a long time? Was Alex Smith not turning the football over and playing good defense? A defense can't do that for 16 games. With Trent Williams holding out and similar to Melvin Gordon, seemingly no end to this holdout in sight. Now, I'm sure it's breaking right now that the holdout is ended.
As soon as we're done, he signed.
With no end to it in sight and kind of after Sheriff, everything else just sort of cobbled together with Eric Flower and all these guys, a bunch of guys named Mo. It's going to be tough for Darius Geis coming off that injury. We're going to get our first look at him this week. Adrian Peterson had a nice year last year, but what was that? That was predicated on the Alex Smith ball control 20-25 carries when he had his big games. You're going to be trying to work Geis in. The receivers, at some point you're going to see Haskins. That'll be fun to see. It's going to be a bad football team. So
I agree.
So pick one. It doesn't matter which direction they finish. And go West, young man.
I still think it's the Rams division. I have them at 11-5. There's a lot of people out there expecting them to regress a little bit. I think Gurley is healthy. They haven't really been talking about it, but reports are that he's very fast, very quick in camp. I'm banking on Todd Gurley being okay. I think Goff will continue to improve, and the wide receivers are great. Defense is still one of the best, not to mention the Cardinals are bad. San Francisco is not as good as everybody wants them to be, and Seattle's getting older. So it's the Rams, baby, 11-5.
Yeah. I am a 14-2, Rick.
Wow.
I expect no regression
Wow.
from this team whatsoever. They're exciting. Aaron Donald's the best player, I think, in the league, certainly the best defensive player in the league. They've got talent up and down. I still buy into McVay. You got the innovative coach. I just think if Todd Gurley, I make these predictions based on the assumption that whatever was going on with Todd Gurley has worked out and he's going to continue to do Todd Gurley things. How do you shut this offense down? What do you do? And then how successful are you going to be against Aaron Donald and against that secondary in L.A.? I just think divisionally, certainly, nobody's a match for them. Seattle probably give them a rough time here and there. And I don't think the NFC's all that good, Rick. And I actually like their matchups against the teams in the AFC North this year. I expect big things from Woods. I expect big things from Brandon Cooks. I think those two, and it's funny how their ADP continues. Those two continue to be right beside each other. So everyone in the fantasy community, including me, doesn't know which one's going to be better.
Right.
They're kind of right there. A healthy Cooper Kupp, I think, makes it off, and a healthy Todd Gurley makes that offense, what we saw last year, makes them a nightmare.
I agree with you. I just couldn't go the 14-2. I mean, look, they play obviously play Seattle twice. They play the AFC North, which means they're playing Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Baltimore. They're playing Chicago. They're playing, let's see, who else? New Orleans. They're playing Carolina. So, obviously, they're playing the South of the NFC. And, of course, they've got Dallas, Arizona twice, obviously. But I don't know. I think you're going to lose a few games more than 2, but I still have them winning the division like you. So,
all right, second place got to be Seattle, right?
Yeah.
Any question there?
Not in my mind, none whatsoever.
Yeah. So I got Seattle at 9-7.
Yep.
I think Russell Wilson. You talk about a guy who can will a team to win games. That team had no business winning any games last year with the injuries, with just the turmoil, the turnover, everything that went on in Seattle. And Russell Wilson, he just went out and found him a way.
And Pete Carroll relates to that team, and he keeps that team together, and their running game is going to be really good with Carson and Penny. The defense, while not feared, like in years past, it's still a good one. And like you said, Russell Wilson, man, they're just going to be a hard team to pull away from, I think, in that division, even though you have the Rams doing it quite easily.
Yeah, we're just lapping people.
I have San Francisco 7-9. People want them to be good, but I think it just takes time. Garropolo still has some growing to do. We talked about him a little bit before. He's essentially, a second-year guy. When it gets right down to it, he missed all last year with that knee. McKinnon, I'm guessing he's probably done again. The backfield's not that strong. Kittle's great. Defense is solid. But he's going to need some wide receivers to really come up huge, and he's going to have to take steps. I'm talking about Garropolo, take steps forward to really make a difference. I have them at 7-9. I got the Cardinals at 4-12. They put all their eggs in the 5'10" Kyler Murray basket. I'm just not convinced. It's going to be a long year. Patrick Peterson suspended. It's just I have them at 4-12, and that could be generous.
Yeah. So rolling back Seattle, really the only comment you have with Seattle is Chris Carson is a guy. There's still some Rashard Penny believers out there, and he's going to get his touches, and he's going to have a game or two. I think Chris Carson, more than anybody else in fantasy football, has the ability to be leaps and bounds exceeding his ADP. He's sitting at running back 19 right now, so kind of a low end too. This guy, if he gets the opportunity, if he stays healthy, this is a guy I think could slip into the top 12. I really do. He was a top 5 guy for at a certain point last year through the end of the season.
1,170 yards, something like that last year, rushing. 9 rushing touchdowns.
Just solid as a rock. Tyler Lockett's a guy you can kind of get at a discount.
Exactly.
You look not a lot of, after him, DK Metcalf, boy, he's cool to look at, right?
Yeah.
But I just don't know. Rookie wide receiver, he's got some questions, has always had trouble staying healthy. And then, tell me everything you know about David Moore, Gary Jennings, Jaron Brown's there.
David Moore's intriguing because somebody's going to have to pick up that next level. But, you're right. And look, from a fantasy perspective, I agree 100% with Carson. But I tell you what, we're predicting just like the regular season. Man, it's great having a tandem like Carson and Penny.
Yeah, no question about it.
Carson gets dinged up a little bit. You want to take a blow for a couple series, no problem. We're fine. You know, and that makes a big difference over the course of a season.
Yeah, heading to San Francisco. We talked about it in the overreactions a little bit. I'll be curious to see the first couple weeks of the regular season when the bullets start flying. Is what we're seeing with Jimmy Garoppolo rust, or is there a confidence issue there? And how long does it take to overcome that mental aspect of coming off that injury? Look, Adrian Peterson ruined this for everybody. He tears his ACL. It felt like 2.5 weeks later he was back and better than he was before. Now we expect this, right? It used to be the career ender. Then it was a full year. Now it's kind of backed up to 9 months, and then these guys come back to their same level where they were prior. And, I think it's an unfair expectation coming off of that injury. I'm a little higher on Tevin Coleman than you are. I think you just having him in that offense with that coaching staff who he's comfortable with, I think he gets plenty of opportunity. The real problem with me, you got the tight end in Kittle. I think he maybe exceeds what's being said about him because of my concern with this team is that wide receiver position. Pettis was the guy all off season and all, every fantasy podcast you listen to and every article you read and everything coming out of campus. He's just been terrible. He's just been awful. And is Dante Pettis the kind of guy who flips that switch in week 1? I'm not so certain. Not a lot being said about Goodwin. And then you got, Deebo Samuel.
I know.
Rookie. It's just, I think Kittle, and I think almost by default, even if you don't like Coleman and his ability to, to take that job over in Atlanta, I think in that Shanahan offense with the lack of other weapons, I think Tevin Campbell,
that
guy, along with Kittle, boy, they could put up some big numbers just by default. So I have them at 6-10. And look, Arizona, people still Kyler Murray. I read something on Twitter today that said If you don't think that Kyler Murray is a QB1 in fantasy football,
I saw that.
Perhaps fantasy football isn't the game for you.
Right.
It's one series and one preseason game, but that first series, did you happen to be watching it when they played Oakland?
No, I did not.
Last game. It was incomplete. Run backwards towards the line of scrimmage. Overthrow. He just looks lost. And look, it's not a bad thing. He's a rookie quarterback. It's his second preseason game. Look, what he can do with his legs is special, and he's going to have a couple of those games, right? And he's got the big arm, and Larry Fitzgerald's going to help him. I just don't see it. I think it's going to be a process for this guy. He just doesn't look like the step-in, lockdown, wide receiver 9 or quarterback 9 that everyone thinks. Yeah. Where is this coming from?
I don't know. I mean, David Johnson, obviously. Look, you have Johnson, you have Fitzgerald. Christian Kirk somehow supposed to explode this year. But it's a rookie quarterback, and it's a bad team. You put Peyton Manning on a horrible team his rookie year, and they were what, 3-13? He was, right. I don't know, 1 million interceptions. I have no idea. But, I mean, this is, like you said, it's a process. This is a bad team. It's going to take some time to get back into any sort of, semblance of winning.
Right.
Period.
Yeah. And it's just, I think he's going to struggle. I worry about David Johnson. Look, I'm putting guys right now, he's his ADP. Running back 5. Look, I put Le'Veon Bell over him. I think about Chubb. I think about Connor. I think about Mixon. I'm just worried because I don't think – look, if Kyler Murray comes in and is good, then David Johnson's David Johnson. Again, it's going to be a much more creative offense than that crap show that it was out there last year. But, look, you're going to key on him, right? You take him out, keep an eye on Larry Fitzgerald.
Right. There you
There's
go.
Not much to fear there. So I worry about David Johnson. All right, Rick, we're already over time. Let's head out to the playoffs. So then I've got my playoff seedings, Rick, as the Rams at 1, Eagles at 2, Vikings at 3, Saints at 4, my wild card teams being the Falcons and the Bears.
Wow. And that's pretty good. I have my wild cards are Minnesota and Atlanta. I have my 1s and 2s at Philadelphia and Chicago. Then I have Rams at 3, New Orleans at 4.
So it appears we have the same playoff teams.
Pretty
it's
much,
just a little bit out of order. So.
Yep. And I have, of course, Philadelphia and Chicago with the bye. I have the Rams defeating Minnesota. And I have the Saints knocking off Atlanta in the first rounds.
I also have the Saints knocking off Atlanta in the first round.
Okay.
And I have the Bears beating the Vikings, so we both have somebody beating the Vikings. So I believe, does that make our divisional round the same?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how you match them up.
Rams, Bears, Eagles, Saints?
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
That's amazing. I have the Saints defeating Philadelphia. And I have Chicago upsetting the Rams.
Okay, I went chalky there. I do have the Saints why can't I talk tonight?
I don't know.
Upsetting the Eagles. But I have the Rams. I have them never losing again, apparently.
Yeah.
So I have a rematch, only a different venue, of last year's NFC Championship game. I'm going to jump ahead of you. Yeah. I said the world owes Drew Brees one, buddy. They get him back. Saints going to the Super Bowl.
And I have New Orleans falling short one more time. I got Chicago.
You got Chicago in the
taking
Super Bowl.
them in the NFC Championship game by defense.
I love it. It's been something an old guy wants to see, right? Defense winning championship.
Yeah, well, they won the Super Bowl last year. We saw that. So, I mean, it still does.
All right, well, there it is. We will do the AFC next week, and you'll have your Super Bowl winner predicted, and you can call the bookie and get those future bets in now.
Okay, and very quickly before we go, I know we're running over, but there was a woman, her name was Jamie Baseglia, if I pronounce that right, I'm not sure, was participating in a salmon fishing derby in Tacoma Narrows on Saturday when she realized she probably wasn't going to win the event.
All right. That happens.
However, she saw another opportunity for glory when she spied an octopus one of her friends had caught. She grabbed it off the hook and wanted to take a picture with it. So she put the octopus where else? On her face.
Well, yeah, certainly.
And the tentacles covered her ears and nose. She was having perfectly fun time with the photo until the octopus bit her chin.
An octopus can bite you?
Oh, yeah, they got a beak like that?
I was unaware.
Yeah. And my friends noticed my face had changed, she said. We couldn't get the beak to dislodge. It was like a prong. Although Biseglia eventually freed herself from the octopus, she bled profusely for 30 minutes afterwards.
How big of a hole did it put in her face?
There's still a pus pocket, and there's a spot under my chin, she said.
Don't say pus pocket.
She waited 2 days until the fishing derby was over to seek medical attention. By that time, the left side of her face was paralyzed, and there was all kinds of swelling. They took her into the hospital, and the IVs swelled her arm up like an elephant, she said. Now she's on antibiotics, and she goes, this is her quest now.
Oh, her quest.
Her
Okay.
quest. She does not want people to do what I did. Does anybody really go around grabbing octopuses and sticking them on their face at regular intervals?
You know, on a percentage basis, how many people come in contact with an octopus per day, per month, per year? I don't think it's very many. And not often is there any animal I pick up, wild, domesticated, or otherwise, and think, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put this thing on my face.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I'm going to pet it. You know, maybe I'm going to hit it with a stick.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm going to eat it. But never, hey, I'm going to put this on my face.
And get my picture taken.
You know, I grew up on a farm.
Right.
I can definitively say I have never put an animal on my face.
Yeah. And it's intelligent not to.
But so this is her quest, you know.
To make people aware that you don't go around putting octopuses on your face.
I am the starting, don't put sea life on your face. What is this?
I mean, you want me to come up with something weird, I found it, okay?
Put her in prison, I think is what you should do. Like, stupid jail. Can we do that? 30
they ought to have a
days.
stupid jail. Yeah. Open up Alcatraz and make it a stupid jail.
Because, you know, she's going to be all over InstaFace and in Snapchat and all that nonsense, and that's going to be her thing. You know, look, this terrible tragedy befell me.
You see that? It used to be a pus pocket, right there.
And she's going to be trying to raise money for the awareness of not putting octopi on your chin. I mean, seriously, if she does this, she should be hit with a stick. I mean, it's quite simple.
I agree. Let's get out of here.
All right. I've had about enough of this. Thanks so much for joining us. Listen back. Make sure you come back next week, same time, same channel, to hear the AFC preview and your Super Bowl winner. Check out everything at the Asylum, at Asylum Football on Twitter. Get those draft, trade, and lineup questions in. It's about that time. AsylumFootball@gmail.com and at Asylum Football on Twitter. And, of course, check out everything over on the Full-Time Fantasy Podcast Network at Full-Time Fantasy on Twitter, fulltimefantasy.com. Take a breath. Thank God it's over. Till next time, we'll see you.
Take care.